The other striking thing for me when this all happened was when you issued the apology, which, in a lot of ways I'd actually commend you for, because what you said to me was, hey, I don't have the corner on the truth. I don't know everything about everything. And so maybe there's some things I didn't know about the story, and I'm going to go research. I'm going to go learn. And man, I wish more people had that response when they were confronted. They say, no, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn. But then you got the equal opposite response from the right. People saying, see, you're buying into the narrative. You're just bending over. You're just taking it from the other side. And what was striking was how similar both those mobs felt to me. The mob on the left when you had the initial tweet, the mob on the right when you had the follow-up tweet. Did you notice similarities in their communication with you, about you?
It was very eye-opening. The so-called anti-woke mob who purport to loathe cancel culture and daily condemning it, but actually they behave exactly that same way. And I even some people who I respected then saying things like, now I hope you get cancelled. It shows to me a lack of awareness, that they have become exactly who they purport to be against, and on apologizing. That's another thing that I don't agree with. That's something that's quite a consistent theme in that the kind of the side of people who are against the progressive side, and the idea of never apologize. But that's not that's if you were at a dinner table and you were speaking freely and you said something that you didn't think was offensive, but someone at the table was clearly offended by what you'd say, you would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. What? Maybe you can explain." Like, it's a natural thing to apologize, because you if someone's hurt and you don't understand how you've hurt them, and yet you've hurt them, you want to understand. So I think it's totally acceptable. I don't have a problem with apologizing, but that's something that I think there's a gracelessness there. I think from that tribe of people on the idea of apologizing. Now, having said that, apologizing when you haven't done something wrong, or apologizing just to appease, if you don't really mean it, I don't think is the right thing to do. But I did mean it.
Well, it takes the power out of the apology. I mean, that's one of the ironies of I said it takes the power out of the apology. It's one of the ironies of, this new thing where if you say something wrong or if you break with the narrative, you're going to issue this big public apology. I was just talking to someone the other day who issued this big public apology for being involved with this journalistic endeavor, which was very much so telling the truth, but it didn't fit with, again, a progressive narrative in this particular case. And behind closed doors, he told me, he said, look, this is way more complex, but I didn't have a choice. I just had to go out and apologize, take my hits, say what I need to say so that I could save face and continue my job, continue moving forward with my life and my work. And it struck me because that's the exact opposite of what an apology should be. I mean, an apology is by definition sincere. There's these people, you can actually buy this is in China. You can buy people who do apologies for you. So like maybe you offend your wife or someone, but you don't quite have, the braveness to go to her. You can hire someone. They will show up to your spouse and do the apology on your behalf. And I think, well, that's not what an apology is. And an apology has to come from the heart. It must be sincere. It's a way of saying, I think I made a mistake here, and I want to consider my actions, my words, and I'm going to do that. And if it's insincere, then it's not an apology. And that's one of the ironies around this whole thing, is that it's totally dismantling the nature of what apology, even repentance, should look like. And again, that's what I appreciate about what you said, is that I think your apology was right. It was right to say, hey, I need to think more carefully about that. There's nothing wrong about admitting that. But on the flip side of it, I do want to encourage you, because you said, okay, I did look into it, and I'm going to stand beside this. I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity. I'm not going to sacrifice my truth on the altar of making more money, on the altar of being famous, on the altar of whatever else there is out there that, you could get if you just would have stuck with the story and said, okay, I'm sorry, I messed up.
Yeah. I should say, I'm in a lucky position where the band were very successful. The stars aligned, and those other three guys are incredibly talented. And I was lucky to be surrounded. And we worked with countless talented people. And so, although I have sacrifice something that was very important to me. I do, I have savings, it, there are many people for whom don't have the security and can't afford to lose their job or their career. And their careers aren't just about money, but they're meaningful to people. But I guess I was in that lucky position, and I do think there are a lot of people who don't have that good fortune, and so they're forced to apologize or to toe the line or to nod along with things that they disagree with, because there's too much for them to lose, and they have too many people reliant and dependent on them, and that's a serious problem in society. And I'm sensitive to it because I got so many emails and so many messages and DMs from people really pouring their heart out, saying they sort of feel trapped and they can't speak because on various topics, and there are obvious hot button topics at the moment, and they seem to be changing every year, and there'll inevitably be a whole bunch of new ones by the end of this year, some of which we probably can't even predict at this point. And that climate of feeling like you're going to lose something for having a differing opinion to the orthodoxy of whatever environment you're in, whatever community you're in, whatever business you work for, that's got to change. That's a really dangerous environment for us to be living in.
Well, yeah, my co-host on the show, we often joke that when you aren't willing to speak your opinion or challenge the held orthodox ideas, we all get dumber in the process. That's the net result. You can think about Galileo Galilei and his willingness to say, you know what, the earth revolves around the sun, and it needed to be said, and it was truth. But if he had held it in, if he had hidden it away, who knows? We might still be living in a different understanding of how the physical universe works. And so I think there's this importance of speaking truth. And you're making me think about the Alexander Solzhenitsyn essay, which you referenced in your letter explaining why you were leaving the band. For those who don't know, he was a Soviet dissident. He's exiled from the USSR, and on his way out, he writes this spectacular essay called Live Not by Lies. And he acknowledges kind of what you're saying, which is you might not have power to change anything in the system that you're a part of. The one thing you can do is refuse to speak the lie, is refuse to buy into the lie. And it is costly and it is difficult. And I'm with you. I feel for people who feel stuck because, again, their career, their livelihood, all kinds of things are on the line. And yet we cannot, he makes the point that the lie dies when people name it as the lie. And so there is this other need that I think we need to talk about, which is we do have to speak the truth, because if we continue to give the apologies, to buy into the lies, we're headed in one direction, which is that the lie takes over and no one can resist it.